everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Johnson, your RTI Reading Coordinator for GRASP. Today I'm going to share with you how to find the documents you will need for teachers to practice and score oral reading fluency screeners. The first step is to go to the GRASP website. When you're on the website, you go down to Downloads and hit Access to Print Directions, Cut Score Information. And then you will see Fluency Practice Packet. You click on Fluency Practice Packet. The first thing you need to do when you hit Fluency Practice Packet is to find the Reading Fluency Screener for 3rd grade. We are going to use that screener to practice today. And remember, this practice is for teachers to practice, not for you to practice with students. You will notice on the screener that there is a study and practicing scoring guide right here that you could use, but we're going to use a different one today that I will show you that is the same thing but is a little bit bigger. And then you have the administration assessor directions. The teacher will need to read everything that is bold and do everything that is not in bold. Please read this as it says so that we have a standard administration. The next page you see is the assessor copy. When you're practicing, you'll want each teacher to have their own assessor copy. And then after that, you will see the student copy. You'll want to print one student copy if you're doing it one-on-one, and you can use this student copy over and over. And then as the assessor copy goes, you can print several of those. So that is what you need to print off first. And then what you'll need to do is go back and look at the scoring guide. We'll practice scoring first. So we have Reading Fluency Scoring Page coded, and we have Reading Fluency Scoring Page. Okay, you can put this up or print this out for the teacher to practice. So what you want to do is just take a few minutes with your teachers. If they're listening to me on this video, I will model reading a story and having them practice. So I would just cut the camera off for a couple minutes and let them practice this and come back on and give them a little quiz. If you're doing this as a trainer, then you would just do this on your own and take that time to have them practice. Right, so what I'll do now is pretend that you practice with, the teachers have practiced this and what it means, and I'm going to give them a little quiz. And when I give them a little quiz, I need to go back and get the coded page. Oh, here it comes. I'm going to pull up the coded page for you so we can talk about what some of these errors mean. Okay. The first question is, how do we mark when a student makes an error? And we mark it by making a slash. And then we practice other things. What is an error? What is not an error? For instance, if a student substitutes a word, they say the word cat and the word is rat, then that would be counted as an error. That's a substitution. Okay? If a student omits a word, you would count that as an error. Now that's all the teachers have to do is put a slash, but once they get good at this, they may want to start putting some coding. So this coding means omission. You don't have to do that right now. That's something that you can learn to do later as you get better. Just remember, mark your errors with a slash. If a child needs to be told a word, what you do is count 1, 2, 3 in your head, not out loud as the teacher, 1, 2, 3, and then tell them the word. And that would be an error. Okay? If a child repeats a word, they say cat, cat. That is not an error. If a child self-corrects a word, for instance, they said rat and then changed it back to cat, then that is not an error. So that would be a self-correction. Right? Inserting words are ignored. And that is something that's a little controversial because some tests, insertions are counted as errors. While on the GRASP test, it is not counted as an error. It is ignored, so we don't count it as an error. Other tests do the same as this as well. Okay, so let's practice. Okay, we'll make sure you understand and know what is an error, what's not an error. And what I'll do next is I will practice reading the third grade passage, and you can code on your assessor copy. Before I do this, I'm going to practice like I'm the student, but first I want to make sure I'm the teacher and I'm reading the directions properly. So that's truly what you'd be doing first. The title of this story is Lost at the Zoo. And you'll want to make sure on the student copy you point to Lost at the Zoo. This is a story about Tom, and you'll want to point to the name Tom. I want you to read this story to me. You will have 1 minute to read as much as you can. When I say begin, start reading aloud at the top of the page. Please do not read the title. Do your best reading. If you have trouble with a word, I'll tell it to you. Do you have any questions? Now, I'm not going to really do a minute. I'm going to read to the bottom of the first paragraph for us to practice. But you usually time it for a minute. Okay? I'm going to be the student now. Begin. Tom's class was going to the zoo. And Tom was very excited. He had been much times in the past, but he never got tired of it. He loved to watch the monkeys swing from tree to tree and listen to them. He loved watching the lion stalk in front of the window. When the bus pulled up to the entrance, was Tom one of the way? Tom saw the zoo workers feeding the penguins. Take a couple minutes and check your coding, and then we'll check together. You have all this on download, so don't fear, you have everything you need to do this. Just go back to the same place we were. Fluency practice packet. Okay, and then you have a scoring answer page, which looks like this, and it has just what you might have done as a teacher. Because I told you you only had to do slashes and put lines. And this one transition, this means transition, so you would only count it once. But I'm going to go over the coding page with you so we can understand what we did, why we did it, and look at the answers together. So I'm going to go back once more and pull up the coded page. So trainer's coded page. This would be the one that a trainer could read from, or what I just read from. Let's look at this together. Okay, in the first line, we had one error. The error was much, I said, for many. So that was a substitution error. That counted as one error. The reason Tom didn't count as an error was because it was a repetition. Okay, in the next line, I said money, then I self-corrected myself to monkeys, so I self-corrected, so we didn't have to count anything there. That was not an error. On the third line, I I omitted the word howl. So that is an error. Then on the fourth line, I transposed was Tom for Tom was. But that just counts as one error. And that's why I like to use the transposition symbol. The next line, I skipped the whole thing. So I put a line through every single word I skipped. And then I'm going to minus these words from my total. And there's 15 words if you count them. So I minus 15 words, and then there's still, we count it as one error. On the last line, I put this mark to show that I'm finished. So if you go to the end of the row, we have 91. Now let's look at the bottom and see how we figure this out. And I will pull it up some so we can see it better. Okay. All right, total words read, 91 minus the 15 words that I skipped equals 76 words per minute. Then I had 4 errors, 1, 2, 3, and there's one more, a fourth one up there. So 76 minus 4 equals 72. I read 72 words per minute. The next step to do is to put this in the computer and figure out what 72 words per minute means.